everybody. Good morning and welcome to AcquaTalks, in this fantastic location. So, first of all, I would like to take a moment to thank the organization and the magnificent estate that is hosting us today. Please, let's start with a big round of applause for the Acqualina that made this possible. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us in this amazing estate. Now, my name is Valerio Spinaci. I'm a lawyer, and I've been living here in the US for the last 10 years. And I would like to talk to you about a topic that maybe some of you know, some of you have heard, or some of you are learning for the first time today. So, just a show of hands to understand how many of you are in real estate. Can I see your hands? Okay, pretty much, maybe 90%. So, you know better than me that the society is changing. And can you hear me all right? Can everybody hear me also from the... Yes. So, you know, as a lawyer, I came here 10 years ago from Italy. I'm from Italy originally, Rome in particular. And I came here 10 years ago to get my second law degree. And I finished law school in the United States, and I passed the bar in a few states. I understood that I needed to somehow stood up from the mass and do something to be different. And I passed the bar in Florida, New York, New Jersey, California, and Italy as well. So I wanted to really be different. Then I understood that just knowing the law and practicing as an attorney was not enough, in the sense that there are many attorneys, and there are many attorneys that know the law very well and that can perform very different things in a very different ways. So I needed to find some tools and some unique skills that could help me to communicate better what I had to say to my clients, and that can help me really get my clients' attention and understand my clients better. And even more in real estate, as you know, since I started in 2015, I understood that especially in Florida, the real estate market is probably the first industry in Florida. And I understood that I needed to invest in real estate and be more present in real estate. So in 2015, I decided to get my real estate license. And then I became a broker. And I opened a company called Opera that specializes in real estate and with foreign clients, as well as in hotels and hospitality. Now, what I learned from that is there are more real estate in Florida than Uber drivers, probably. Everyone in Florida has a real estate license, and you probably know this by firsthand. So there is something that everybody can do to really, that everybody can learn to really get better at communicating and get different and get ahead of the competition. Now, this is something that really, we're going to talk about real estate, since everybody here is here for the same reason, to learn and to grow and to become a better version of yourself. And it's important to understand that this is not only applicable. What we're going to learn today is a set of skills that you can use in everyday's life, not only in business, not only in real estate, but it's something that you will see that it will be applicable to every area of your life. Now, let's start with what's NLP? What's neuro-linguistic programming? Did somebody know? Did somebody hear before NLP? Okay, some of you have been exposed to it. So neuro-linguistic programming is really a modeling technology. Was created, let's say, assembled, because of course they picked different techniques from different aspects of psychology and communication and other branches. It was invented by Richard Bandler and John Grinder few years ago, now many years ago, and then it was perfected, it was expanded, and basically it's a modeling technology. It consists of a set of tools that allows you to study the excellence and the results of other people and apply what they do to yourself in order to achieve the same results. So very, very easy and very linear. So how do you do that? First of all, you find a model. Everybody has a model, no? How many of you look up to somebody? Or everybody, when we are kids, right? We start as kids and we learn from our parents. And then we grow up and we go to school and we learn from our teachers. And then we learn and we grow. And more and more we find new models that help us grow and help us learn new skills. And this is a very effective tool to learn faster and better from people that are obtaining today the results that we want. Okay? Very simple. Now, how does this apply to real estate? And this is what's more interesting to you, is that as a communication, as realtors or lawyers or professionals, we are always communicating. So we're always talking to clients, talking to suppliers, talking to sellers, buyers. We're always selling. We're selling ourselves, we're selling products, we're selling everything. So in reality, we are always communicating. And so we need to be good communicator. How many of you think that communication is a good part of your everyday job? Everybody, right? And how many of you, by the way, how many of you speak more than one language? Okay, pretty much everybody. How many of you think that speaking more than one language helps you in your work, in your profession? Okay. How many of you, if it was easy, would like to learn another language, for example? Okay. So by the end of today, in a very short time that we have, I promise you that you will learn not Italian, but that takes a little more. But you will learn somehow a way to speak 3 more languages, and I will tell you how. So what happens in the communication, first of all, is we all need to become better listener. Okay, we really need to learn how to listen. You might have heard this before, but with my Italian accent, it will probably sound different. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth because we should listen twice as much as we actually speak. And this is true not only for words, not only for what people tell us. In fact, the communication happens mostly non-verbally. It's only 7% of what we learn and the information we receive comes from the words we actually listen. So the rest of it is all non-verbal. It's 38% is how the words are said to us, and the remaining 55% is actually body language. Is all how we move, how we stand, how we say things. Everything else is non-verbal communication. Okay, so in order to become better communicators, we need to learn how to listen the other person and how to realize what is that the other person is really telling us beside the words that they're using. And this is actually what we're gonna start looking today. Now, it's interesting because in a way, the communication happens all the time, every day, no matter what. Even when we don't want to communicate, even if I'm here and I'm not saying anything, just by changing the way I stand, I can give you some feedback, right? If I turn around, if I move, everything I do sends a message. So the important part of this is understanding how to interpret the message and how to communicate better because of the message we received. Okay? Let's start from let's start from the first part, which is body language. And I'll give you one idea of what I'm talking about. Did you ever hear the word report? Do you know what report is? Because the title of my speech, of course, was Building Rapport with Your Clients. And I use clients, but in reality, you can use it with anybody else. So does anyone know what report is? Or do you have a definition for report? Empathy. Okay, empathy. Something else?
Learn how to communicate with the other person.
How to communicate, good. So it's a communication. You all agree it's a let's say a set of I would say, to simplify it the most, it's a connection we have with somebody. So we establish rapport when we feel that we have a connection, and so that whenever we communicate to the other person follows what we are saying and responds to what we are saying, and vice versa, okay? And we can build the rapport with our clients, with our friends, with our cared ones, but at the same time, we can break rapport very easily. If we do something like, I'm talking to you, and now my phone rings, and okay, hello, sorry guys. Instantly the connection is broken, right? And then it may not be that easy to go back into the connection and get the same rapport that we had before. So it's very important to learn how to build a rapport, how to maintain the rapport, and how not to break the rapport during the relationship, okay? Because this will help us in selling, it would help us in communicating, it would help us in keeping up and following up with our clients and maintaining long-term relationships. So these are things that somebody has learned naturally, okay? And have you ever seen somebody that seems just a natural success in communicating, a great communicator, a great salesman, or just, they just has it, right? And this is exactly what I was talking about. The NLP allows us to understand what some people do effectively that work, and allows us to apply it ourselves in order to get the same results. So the first thing that we can do to create rapport, and the first thing that creates rapport, is similarity. So what we like is generally what is similar to us, okay? So I like you, and you like me if we are similar, if we have something in common, if we are, maybe doesn't work so much with women when they wear the same dress. It's actually the opposite. But for example, men, instead, when we're dressed similar, say, oh, you also have the same dress. But in general, similarity creates rapport. So the first thing that we want to do as communicators is to create rapport by creating similarity. So by as much as possible become like the person we want to really interact with and we really want to communicate with. And how do we do that? What can we model? What can we do in order to create this rapport? The first thing we can do, the first thing we see is, we just said it, the body, right? Body language. So what we can do is we can do it in different ways. So we can model the way the person is sitting, if we're sitting. We can model the person, something that the person is doing. So if I see some of you and I change my posture to model some of you may feel more connected because I'm sitting in the same way, or I'm putting my hands in the same way, or the way I'm moving my body can create a connection with somebody, and that will basically allow me to communicate deeper with that person. So the first exercise, the first thing that everybody does, and I've seen a lot of you practicing that this morning, the first thing that we do as a business person, a businessman or businesswoman, when we meet somebody new, what is it? What do we do? Handshake. Shake hands. So the first connection that two people have generally in business is handshake, right? Is when we go and we shake hands with somebody else. So that is really the first thing that we can learn modeling from. Because the very first contact sometimes is completely different, can create a positive experience or a negative experience. Even before the handshake, there is something called prosemica in Italy. It's actually the proximity when we are next to each other. So thank you, by the way. So it basically means that we keep a distance, okay? So even before our body touch with the handshake, we have already a way to test the rapport because we have this distance between us. And that's very important to keep in mind because some people can be more, let's say, can be more, I would say, eager. No, apprehensive is more happy to have a physical touch. Especially in Italy, we love to have to hug and kiss, and that's all true. But some people don't find that very comfortable, and so some people in reality like to keep a distance. So generally, what you have to study, what you have to understand, is really how to communicate. And because you helped me, can I ask you? Can I ask you to join me on stage? I will just, what's your name?
Yancy.
Yancy. Please, a round of applause for Yancy. That will help me show you what this exercise is about. So generally, thank you. Welcome. Good morning. So you got here at the right time. We're just starting the exercise. So basically, when you start as a two people that don't know each other and are starting, generally the distance that is considered acceptable is 1 arm's length, okay? This is natural. We would, like I just did, if you see, it's basically 1 arm. If I get closer, sometimes the other person can feel, you know, it's too close. I mean, I don't know this person. You know, that's why we feel uncomfortable on the metro, or sometimes where we are constrained in a very small place, okay? So the more, now that we introduce each other, my name is Valerio, generally you can get closer to half, okay? Half arm. And this is okay. Why? Because you can just imagine that we're walking with an invisible bubble, okay? Some of you may be familiar with the term, like a bubble that when somebody enters our bubble, we feel uncomfortable. And that, why is important, why I'm mentioning this now, is because that sometimes affects our handshake. Because if my bubble is bigger, and so I get uncomfortable if somebody enters my bubble, when I need to give my handshake, I will be like, you know, I don't really want you in my bubble, so my hand is not going to be very, very firm in giving a handshake. On the other hand, if my bubble is small and I like physical touch and I'm not afraid, then I will be, yes, you know, I will be very close and very touchy. So what is the best handshake? The best handshake we learn from what I said before is by modeling the other person's handshake, so to make them feel at ease. So the best thing you can do is to understand how the other person gives the handshake and somehow do the same. So if you see they're firm, you will be firm. If you see they're a little bit soft, you don't exaggerate, you don't go too strong. If you see there are people, you know, they like to hold on the arm or hold on the hand, so you want to focus and understand what is the other person doing and model the same way, so that the other person will feel understood and will feel exactly on the same page since the very first touch you have with them, okay?
Yeah,
easy to do, no?
Yeah.
Right. So let's see the first exercise. Thank you. Thank you. So the first thing I like you to do is pick your partner next to which you're sitting, give them a handshake, and understand and see how does it feel. Okay? Okay. Good job. Did you see? Okay, that was a that was a very successful handshake. But you saw the point. You understood. Have you tried both? Have you tried both neighbor or just one? Just one. Some of you tried both. Okay. Have you noticed a difference for those who tried two? But have you understood that maybe you were expecting a stronger grip, or you were expecting, you were able to understand, right? Now, because you were aware when you were giving the handshake of what was going on. And as I said, there are many ways. You will find people that like to turn the hand on top, or that like to really be in charge and have a strong grip. You can really work with that in order to create a first contact that is very effective. Okay. Now let's move to something more interesting, because this is, as we said, is the first thing is the distance and the handshake, and then we get into the communication, the actual communication. Body language is a big theme, and so I don't even want to go in too much in depth. But of course, the way the other person is sitting or the other person is standing next to you is very important. And you can learn about this. You can look at their feet to see and understand whether this person is following you or this person wants to leave. And because not everybody can see my feet, but the feet generally don't lie. That's the thing. So I can say, yeah, I love what you're saying, but in reality, I want to go. Okay. You can check by seeing if the body is aligned to you. So if their face is pointing to you as well as the belly button, so you know that the person is really paying attention. If they're turning and they're just talking to you like this, it feels more disconnected, right? So all these things you really need to pay attention to, because the more you pay attention to, the more effective your communication is going to be, and the more effective sales person you are going to be in every communication. Now, let's go to something even more interesting. How many of you are following so far? Good. This was very straightforward. Now, the next step is understanding our representation system. This is probably the beginning of the neuro-linguistic programming, and it's one of the most important skills that you may learn. Why? Because it really allows us to understand the person in front of us and what they have in their mind, how they process their reality. So the most important thing you need to remember is the map is not the territory. So the reality that we have in our mind is not the reality around us. And this may seem easy, and what do I mean by this? I mean that when we have an experience, we are all living an experience today, right? We are all here in the same room, listening to an Italian explaining a somehow interesting topic, but everyone has a different recollection. Some of you may pay attention to what I'm saying. Some of you may pay attention to how I'm looking and what I'm wearing. Some of you may be interested in my tone of voice, or may focus on a text message they received, or something that happened before. So each one of us will have a different experience in your mind of what happened today, of the same experience. And have you ever noticed, maybe you go to a party and you have the same thing, and you go to a party with somebody, and for some reason you go home and you say, oh, what a wonderful party, and the other person says, oh, wow, it was so boring. I mean, I don't even know why I came at the party. So that is because we process reality differently. How do we process it? We process it through the same senses. So we call it, to make it easier, we use an acronym that is VACOG. So this is the acronym to make it easier for you to remember. But these are the 5 representational systems that each and every one of us has in their body. So the visual, this is visual, meaning everything we see, okay? Of course, there's people that can see better than others, but we all see somehow the reality, and we all have perception. Even blind people, they have pictures in their mind. If you ask them to describe things, they still see everything that happens. Auditory, so this is everything we hear, sounds of voices, everything in nature that you can actually listen to. Okay. Then kinesthetic. Kinesthetic is basically the feelings, okay? So everything, the touch and everything that is inside that we process as a feeling or a sensation, emotions and everything. And olfactory is everything we smell, okay? And gustative is the taste that we have in every circumstances. Now, these 5 representational systems are present in every one of us. However, mostly for as a convenience, we mostly use these three. Why? Because it's different it's more difficult in our mind to always think about the smell or the taste. Sometimes when we're eating something, then we will remember, or the smell. You always, when you enter Acqualina, the smell is fantastic, no? And it creates an association that every time you come here, you have a positive, you instantly feel good because you recognize the smell, as many can associate a smell to a particular person, right? However, these three are the main one and the three one we're going to focus on right now. So why are these three important? Because we build in our mind the reality through these three representational systems. And even though everyone has the three representational system, we have generally a predominant one. So we use one more than the other two. Why? Just because we are wired that way. We started and we got used to it, and we pay attention to particular things in the reality. So what happens is you have people that will be thinking, and I'll give you the three difference, because the goal for today is to understand how to recognize them and understand how to talk the same language. These are the three languages I was referring to. So the visual person is somebody that thinks and speaks in images. Okay, so every time they speak, they generally picture and make pictures in their mind and videos of what they're gonna say, of what they're saying, what they're describing, everything. So generally, their eyes are gonna be up in the air, because they're gonna see the pictures, they find the pictures in their brain, and then they will describe the pictures that they see. So their speaking is generally gonna be faster. They're gonna use a lot of gestures, even if they're not Italian. So they're still gonna be using gestures, and generally the gestures are gonna be in this area. And when they describe things, you will notice that they will use visual common phrases and sentences, okay? So even words. So they will say something like, did you see the house today? Or can you picture the furniture in that corner? Can you imagine how it would be to live in this house or to live in this property? I mean, I can visualize myself on the beach, right? So they will use words that are actually in the visual space, okay? And if you pay attention to what other people are saying, they will tell you. That will be literally the visual we see. It will be, give me some other example. You can see, imagine, picture, look. So somebody say, look at this document, okay? So anything that will come out of their mouth is gonna be in this space, okay? On the other hand, somebody that's let's say that has a predominance of auditory, it will be somebody focused on the words, on the sounds, right? And so all they're saying and all they are listening to is actually, it will have a sound. Their eyes are generally gonna move laterally, and I can explain to you what that means later, the eye movement, because that will be even easier to understand. But for now, let's focus on the words that they use, because this is so powerful that you can use not only in a face-to-face conversation, but on emails or text or any communication you have on the phone, any communication we'll have with somebody, because you will get these cues, you will get these basically these elements that will allow you to recognize the person type, okay? So the auditory will be like listen. It will be like does this sound easy? Yes? Okay. I remember, yeah, she told me that. I was telling you something. Now, do you hear me? Right? Do you listen to what I just said? So everything is gonna be in the auditory realm, okay? Now, the third one instead, the kinesthetic, is really related to the feeling. So the people that are kinesthetic really sometimes are taken for introverted. They're not. They're just are very deep and they're reactive to other stimulus. For example, to touch. They're much more sensitive to physical touch. They understand better the emotions. They're generally more empathetic. So there are just other skills that they have, and generally their tone of voice is gonna be more low, and generally they're gonna use less gestures when they speak, and they're gonna be more calm. So in this case, kinesthetic people will speak with feelings, and so they will say, that doesn't feel right. That this place doesn't feel right, or I really understand. I really think that this is that this feels right. Okay, so these are the type of the kinesthetic. So why is this important? Because if you find somebody who is kinesthetic on the phone, and that person will answer like, hello, and you're going, hi, how are you? I want to present you with this amazing property. That's not going to happen. And this, you can recognize this also between agents, and when you work with each other, when you work with other brokers. Sometimes you have people on the phone that are like over the top or too low, and you're like, how? Even just to communicate and say, can I come to see your property, or can we work on a deal, or when you're negotiating with another professional. The more you can talk the same language and speak the same language and be on the same page, the more you will be effective, and your communication will be effective, because the other person will feel understood and will feel that you are connected. Okay? How many of you are following so far? Do you listen to what I just said? So everything is going to be in the auditory realm. Okay? Now, the third one, instead, the kinesthetic, is really related to the feeling. So the people that are kinesthetic really sometimes are taken for introverted. They're not. They're just are very deep and they're reactive to other stimulus. For example, to touch. They're much more sensitive to physical touch. They understand better the emotions. They're generally more empathetic. So there are just other skills that they have, and generally their tone of voice is gonna be more low, and generally they're gonna use less gestures when they speak, and they're gonna be more calm. So in this case, kinesthetic people will speak with feelings, and so they will say, that doesn't feel right. That this place doesn't feel right, or I really understand. I really think that this is that this feels right. Okay, so these are the type of the kinesthetic. So why is this important? Because if you find somebody who is kinesthetic on the phone, and that person will answer like, hello, and you're going, hi, how are you? I want to present you with this amazing property. That's not going to happen. And this, you can recognize this also between agents, and when you work with each other, when you work with other brokers. Sometimes you have people on the phone that are like over the top or too low, and you're like, how? Even just to communicate and say, can I come to see your property, or can we work on a deal, or when you're negotiating with another professional. The more you can talk the same language and speak the same language and be on the same page, the more you will be effective, and your communication will be effective, because the other person will feel understood and will feel that you are connected. Okay? How many of you are following so far? Great. I didn't lose anyone. That's great. So a way to learn this, and as I said, is also to see when you're reading an email or reading a text message, you will find these kind of verbs. You will find these words. And if you use the same words, this is similar to what we just saw before. So with the modeling of the posture, because you can model, you can match the same words that other people are using. So if somebody say, I don't see your point, you can reply and say, do you see my point now, after you make your argument? Or if somebody say, that doesn't sound right, then you can ask him or ask her, how does this sound instead? And so use the same channel of communication. This is like if you're speaking to somebody whose first language is English or somebody whose first language is Spanish, if you use their first language, they will understand better. They will feel more similar to you, and you will be able to create a better rapport. So this is something that you can apply every day. Now let's go to what I was telling you before. That was the eyes. Why the eyes are important? Because the eyes give you a very interesting tool for you to learn. Meaning that depending on if you look in somebody else's eyes, okay, these are two eyes. So depending on what, where they look, okay. So if you ask a certain question, you will see a certain response. And this also will allow you to understand whether the other person is thinking a sound, is thinking an image, or is thinking about a feeling, something inside. And the mind is very powerful. So everything we communicate, because we communicate with words, the words are going automatically to give a stimulus to your brain, and you will have a response no matter what. So if I tell you, don't think about a pink elephant here in the middle, very pink, very big, don't think, don't see the elephant, right? Don't imagine the elephant here. Your mind automatically goes there, right? And how many people saw the elephant? Okay, so now another thing that is important is where you put your focus. Because if I tell you to look around this room and see and focus on everything that is gray, okay, everything that's gray, look around, everything that's gray, okay. Now close your eyes for a second, and tell me everything that is green, okay. So now, because you focused on something, that doesn't mean that the green was not there in the first place, but it means that because you are focusing on something, you are not looking for the green. And this is what we are really looking in the first thing, in the first communication we have with somebody, is to learn what kind of person they are. So if they are looking up, generally, as we said, is visual, okay? They're gonna access, their brain is accessing pictures, okay? So in this case, if I ask you, we can do this with we can do this. Yeah, you have. I'll show you in a second. It's gonna take 1 second. So if I ask you, what's your name? Melissa. Mucho gusto, Melissa. So, but look, I'm gonna stay right here so they can look at you. You can front. So, Melissa, if I ask you to think about the color of your first car, for example. Think about the color of your first car. Okay?
Should I tell you?
Yes, tell me.
Okay. Yellow.
Yellow. Okay. Have you seen her eyes? Have you looked her eyes? It went this side, right? Why? If I ask, what's the color of your next car, the car you will want to have, let's say next year?
White.
White. Okay. You already know. So what's a picture of what's the color of your next house?
White.
Okay, have you seen again? The eye, even for a second, the eye goes that way. Why? And thank you, Melissa. We'll be back. We'll be back. So here, when you go here, so when you go, and this is, by the way, your same side. So this is left for me, but it will be right for you. So whenever you are looking at somebody, you will have this in the right way, okay? So this is visual remember, and this is visual construct, okay? Meaning that if they look here, they're thinking about a picture that they have in their mind and they're remembering, like her first car. Instead, this one, it means that she's imagining a picture. So if I ask something she doesn't know, she will look at a picture that she's creating rather than a picture that she's remembering, okay? Same thing is gonna happen for the audio. So if I have an auditory constructed and auditory remembered, meaning if I ask somebody, what's the voice, can you remember the voice of your friend or your significant other, or can you remember what is the last song you listened to? Your eyes are gonna go this way, okay? So you will have your eyes here. If I ask you instead, okay, what are you gonna say at the end of the presentation? And you need to think of what you're gonna say. Now you're gonna go here and you're gonna construct an audio, okay? Here instead you have the kinesthetic, so here you have the feelings, and here is a little bit, it's also feeling, but because it's instead of being constructed and remembered, this is really the internal dialogue. So when somebody is looking down that way, they're more talking to themselves, okay? So they're accessing feelings, but in reality, somebody's like, oh, I do that a lot. Everybody does that. Everybody does that, and it's just the way we do it. And everybody does that in a different way. So this, we can talk about all day about this, because there is a lot to learn about this. In fact, each one of these will have different modalities, because you can have pictures in color, you can have pictures in black and white, you can have a movie, you can have sounds that come from the back, from the front, there are so many modalities that our brain uses to create every one of these strategy. But this is not the purpose of this lecture. This one, why I really want you to understand, is that there are 3 different ways to communicate. And these 3 are, as I said, we all have them. So we all talk to ourselves. We all have feelings. We all have our voice, internal voice, or somebody else's voice. We're all able to basically to remember sounds and to create a speech or formulate a sentence. What we are focused today, and so what we want to take home is really how to understand the other person's representational system, and how to take that representational system and communicate in that representational system to the other person. So this is something you can do starting today. You can go home, and whoever you're talking to, you can ask them. You can ask them questions like, okay, how do you think about, if you think about your favorite, if you want to, for example, if you want to close a sale or something like that, okay, what would be think about your ideal house. You'll see, if they look up, they're probably gonna think about a picture of the house, and you know that the representational system is a visual representational system, and you can ask them, okay, what do you see? What do you see in your house? Where do you see yourself living? When you look at the floor, what kind of floor will you have? Okay, so everything is gonna reason in their mind using pictures. On the other hand, if you ask them, okay, what is what do you like this property, or what are you thinking in terms of price? And it's like, I don't know, it sounds a little pricey. So okay, and you see they look on the lateral side, then you can say, okay, so what will be the price that sounds right to you? What would be, if we say this price, will that sound right? Will that sound better? So all these tools you can use every day, and as I said, not only for business or for sale, but in everyday's life. When you ask somebody, what do you think about last night? What do you think about going to a restaurant? And you will see, they look up, they look down, they look on the side. So this is really understanding how our brain works and being able to communicate better with each other and becoming a better person, a better version of ourselves because of the way we communicate and because the way we are able to convey what we want with the other person. Okay? Now, how many of you think that this can be applicable to your everyday life? Okay, with in your business and everything. Okay, you can think that the neuro-linguistic programming is a very powerful tool because it combines the neurological part, so how our brain works, together with the language pattern. That's why it's called neuro-linguistic, because we communicate through our words. So to see how the words affect the way we think and how certain words can really change the way we think. And then programming, because we are able, when we learn how to do it, we are able to really program our brain and our friends and our family's brain, in the sense of improving and get to the next level and really get rid of a lot of blocks, a lot of mental blocks we have, a lot of different beliefs that may be limiting beliefs, and something that everybody has, because they don't teach this in school. So I wish I've been studying NLP, and I've been studying self-development since I was 18 years old, and I've been learning a lot from the best speakers in the world and the best coaches in the world. And every day I learn, I read a book, I read articles and everything, I discover something new, because the brain is always, we say that we use only 10%, or somebody says 2%. It's very true, because the more we study, the more we find out. I was attending a seminar, and when I got the I became licensed to teach NLP from Richard Bandler, one of the founder, and he teaches NLP, and he teaches hypnosis, and he teaches a lot of different tools that are very, very important for everyday's life. I've been researching, I've been reading, I've been attending to Shirley here. If you haven't met her, she's the Tony Robbins for ladies, which I'm very glad that she came. She invited me to one of her seminars as well, and I learned other things as well that were combined with at the end of the day, with what I learned in the past. Why? Because at the very end, there is always something to learn and something that we can add to our experience. Okay, what we bring home, what we go and we rethink of the experiences that we had. Everybody's gonna take and keep different things, but at the end of the day, it's important that we keep the things that are important to us and the things that are helpful and useful for our everyday life. So when you go home, even if you take one thing that that you can apply in your everyday life, that means that you can apply that forever, that you can take this and just minus things. And I see that every time I read a book, maybe I learn one thing from the book, but then I say, I know and I see that every day I apply that thing over and over, and my life becomes better because of that single thing that I learned in a book. So I think this tool, learning how to recognize these three representational systems and understanding the person that you have in front and understanding what is their main and leading representational system, will be an extremely powerful tool that you can use every day. And this is one of the most powerful modeling technique, is modeling the representational system. In addition to, as we saw, modeling the handshake and modeling the way people are moving. You don't have to mirror everything, okay? You don't have to become like a puppet that is doing the same thing. Although, let me tell you, it's very powerful, because you will see, and you can see when you walk out of here and you walk into the first restaurant, you will see that people who are in rapport are going to be staying and sitting in the same way. So you see, I can see even in the audience, people that are sitting the same way or leaning in a different way or holding their hands, they're somehow connected. So they are on the same page. And you can notice this. The more you notice, the more you become aware, and the more you look around and you see, the more you will be good at it. And the more you will recognize, and you will be understanding if the other person is following you, if the other person is listening what you're saying, if the other person is agreeing with what you're saying or not? And while I want to keep this short, because I know that you all have to go back to your work and to your business, I really appreciate you coming here today. I wanted to make sure that you have that you can bring something with you. And so I'm just to understand, how many of you understood everything so far? Okay, that's great. How many of you think this is important? This is something that is important in your business, to learn one language, one additional language. Now you learn 3, right? Now you have these 3. When I was saying that you will be learning 3 more languages, these are the 3 languages that everybody speaks, even if they don't know, okay? And if you are able to understand this, and you all are, because you all have eyes, you all have ears, and you all have feelings, so you will be able to speak 3 more languages in addition to yours. So in addition to the 2 or 3 or 4 that people here, or 5, some people speak so many. So you can become even a better communicator, okay? Now, before we leave this, I would like also to give you a last message. That is, it's very important, and this I think we all agree, and I started with this and I want to close with this. It's very important to continue growing, right? We all have, as brokers, continuing education. As lawyers, we have the continuing legal education. But at the very end of the day, everyone in every profession, no matter what, and especially in real estate, and especially in Florida, it's very important to keep growing and to keep learning new skills, because the world is always changing. So we need to become a better communicator in order to become a better person every day. And so my suggestion to you is to keep looking and keep growing by keep attending communication skills and sales skills, and keep finding training that are helpful for your profession, because you will see that every time you listen to and I can go through the whole list. You can see that every time you listen to a speech, you will feel that you are growing, right? So I use the 3 of them in order to really give you a powerful end of this. And I'll be happy for anyone that is interested. I'll be happy to discuss with you and to learn more of this, because we really saw the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg. There is so much in this that goes from the understanding how to work on everything we saw, and how to translate from one to the other, and how to really find out what the other person is thinking in order to become a better communicator, okay? So everyone who is interested, I'd be happy to talk to, and if you haven't left your information, we'll be sending you a thank you for being here, and to stay in touch. We have in our company, Opera, we have Opera Academy. That is basically our education and training arm. So everything we do is we have the best speakers in the world, from neuro linguistic programming, coaching, motivational speaking, sales, marketing, everything that you can think of. And we have a lot of events throughout the years. So I'll be happy to see you at one of the events, or to invite you to one of our events. We have one almost every month or every 2 months. And it would be a pleasure to really join forces with you, because at the end of the day, you are among the most, definitely the most successful and the most powerful brokers and real estate agent in Florida. Not just because you're here, but because you know that when you go home, you're gonna put a lot of effort and the passion in what you do every day. So this is really what makes a difference. And so I think that at the end of the day, we are all working for the same cause, to become better persons ourselves, and to make other people, and to help other people to find and reach their goals. And so it would be a pleasure to share this with you on a continuing education basis.
I have a question. Do you have a book you could
Oh yeah, yeah. There are many books. I can and some are more technical, some are less technical. Like for this, I would say what we saw today. There is a book called The Magic of Rapport by Terry Richardson. There are many books written by Richard Bandler, The Structure of Magic. There are you can mostly I would recommend the books by Bandler and Grinder because they are the founders. I know that then there were other people that took different paths. There is Robert Dills. There is there are different schools of neuro-linguistic programming in general, and depending on what is your what is basically your interest, then you can pick. What I recommend is reading books is great, but particularly for this, as you saw in person, is completely different to apply the skills in a classroom rather than reading a book, because of course everything you're going to read on a book is great because the words are processing in your brain, and at the same time you want to go out and try, you want to go out and test. This is not I have a limited time, so I didn't want to go too deep and put too many things on the table, but I really strongly invite all of you to go out today and test and learn everything we discussed today and see how you become better. The more you become aware, the more you become better in communicating. And so when you are in a classroom environment where in a practitioner course, for example, you have what we call a common experience, where you can immediately test and check the skills you learned in order to make sure that you really learn them at a very deep level. Okay? Any other question? I didn't think that was a good, thank you for your question. Any other?
Well, you mentioned that somebody, when they're remembering, they look to the right.
Mm-hmm.
Does it affect that if you're lefty? Do they look to
Yes, good question. So the question is, does the eye, what happens if you're left-handed, for example? So from my experience, I never found somebody that has a reverse mode, but yes, it can happen, and it's not necessarily for people. But let me explain why. Because you can be left-handed or right-handed, but the reason these are here is because of our brain. Because we have two areas on our brain, right? The correct, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. So one is the one that processes the, let's say, one is processes the emotion, and it's more the area that we say is the more for creative people, or that is less structured, okay? And the other area instead is the area that puts all the information together, because since we do receive all this information, so we are seeing every moment, you are seeing everything, listening everything, feeling everything. So if you're left, the area of your brain will not process everything you're getting, you will be overwhelmed with information that you don't know what to do. You get a lot of useless information. Instead, that area of the brain puts everything together and organizes it and makes sure that you can understand what's happening and evaluate it and respond, correct? So this is true for all the people that are left-handed or right-handed. So the eyes movement are going to be the same. Now, as I said, in theory, and I've studied that many years, in theory, they always tells me, everybody tells me, oh, it can be inverted. I never found it. It can be right-handed, left-handed. This is always going to be the rule. And if it's not, it's the same thing. It's going to be on the opposite side. But you're still going to be able to recognize the visual, because it's still going to be up, and you're still going to be able to recognize the auditory. Okay? But thank you. Thank you. It was a great question. Any other question? Yes? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I mean, it was a great question, and there is some people that don't use the brain at all. We agree. But there are differences, and because there are differences, let's say that these are tools that are more general, right? When you go in deep, when you go in a precise case, you can have a lot of nuances of this. The more you study, the more you can get better at this. The more you understand, maybe look there, but then he looked there. So something he imagined, something he remembered, and then what happens is better that I go with a picture first and another first. But it's at this point, I think the important part is that you understand that our brain, more or less, works exactly the same for everybody. Even though people have learned and have used their part of a different part of the brain or particular areas of the brain because of the work they do. So we are all pretty much doing the same thing because we are dealing with people and negotiating and selling and in a real estate space. But there are people that maybe are more used to physical things and physical kind of work that automatically allows them to grow different areas of the brain and learn different skills that are helpful for them in their work. But the main principles are applicable to everybody, and our brain works exactly the same for what we just discussed today. Okay? Did I answer your question? Thank you. Any other question? Okay. So thank you very much for being here. I appreciate. Thank you very much for hosting us.